All right, late plug-in fight. This one was not a part of my original show, but because Ray Borg fell out of the card because he had to attend to a family emergency. Totally understandable. His son obviously has been ill. We had talked about that before, this is weird because this was my biggest underdog pick, and now Ray Borg's not going to fight. So now he's being replaced by an even bigger underdog. Combate America's bantamweight champion Gustavo Lopez steps in to take Ray Borg's place, and he's taking on Merab Dvalishvili. And this fight is interesting only for one reason, because Gustavo Lopez has dynamite in his hands. This dude can seriously crack. I'm talking, I don't know if you guys have seen it. You might have seen it if you're the type of people who keep up with like some of the most devastating knockouts that you see, like just across combat sports. If you haven't seen it yet, YouTube Gustavo Lopez KO of Joey Ruquet. I think it's Ruquet or Ruquet. His last name is spelled Ruquet. Look that up. You'll see what I'm talking about. I don't think I've ever seen anybody go into the contortion type of a thing after being knocked out quite the way Joey does after Gustavo Lopez cracks him with this just vicious right hand. Overall, his style, I looked at a few fights of his. I had heard his name before, but wasn't as familiar with him as I wanted to be. That's why, I wanted to make sure I looked at him a little bit before I started giving a prediction. He's very dependent on the right hand with his stand up. He keeps his guards really tight, fists close to his face. Really traditional boxing stance, what a lot of boxing people would call straight up and down. A really skilled boxer would pretty much see most of his stuff coming, but it's different in MMA when the gloves are smaller and one landed shot can equal something different. So Merab's got to be careful here. He can't be too let down by having this replacement. He also can't relax too much and allow himself to get caught by this guy, because he can crack. 11-4 for his career. Merab will have a little bit of a size advantage, which is something that he generally doesn't have. He would have had the same thing over Ray Borg as well. But you're looking at Gustavo Lopez. He's 30 years old. He's won his last 3 fights all by stoppage. It was the knockout against Ruquet that I just mentioned. Right before that, he knocked out Jose Alday, and that was actually him avenging a loss against him that he'd had. He lost by split decision. That had actually been his last loss. And then he also submitted Vicente Marquez Enriquez with a shoulder choke in the first round, 50 seconds in, back in December. So he's been pretty active, 3 fights since December of 2018. And he's a legit fighter. He's a legit fighter. I don't think this will be his last fight in the UFC. I don't, unless he just gets blown out of the water. I don't think this will be his last fight. He had a fight against Andre Ewell, who is actually in the UFC, or was. Got knocked out in the first round, 4 minutes and 44 seconds into that. So we'll see. We're going to see what happens. Now, I'm going to give you guys my prediction. It's just very difficult for me. While I do think it's interesting, Gustavo's interesting with his punching power and so forth, and his toughness. He also has a nice wrestling game. He basically, what he does is he tries to paw his way in, a little bit of a jab, come over the top of the big right hand, and then he shoots for the takedown. And he's pretty good at getting takedowns. He knows how to get low, tie up an ankle or leg, and kind of work that to get to the ground. I don't think he's going to want to do that with Merab, because he's playing right and kind of into his hands. I think he's going to want to try to catch Merab with that big right hand over the top. Merab fights with his hands kind of down at the sides, uses a lot of kicks and spinning stuff he does, kind of unpredictable. But Merab is on a roll right now. Just coming off a victory over Casey Kenny, which that looks even better now based off of what we've been seeing from Kenny lately. But yeah, as much as I think this is an interesting battle, minus 800 is there for a reason. Plus 550 is there for a reason. Short notice fight against a good fighter. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough for Gustavo. He does have that home run capability because of the big right hand, and that can change things. I mean, Matt Serra knocked out Georges St. Pierre, so it can change things if you're going to land that big shot. But I don't think that that's going to happen. You'd have to believe. And it's funny, right? Because Matt Serra is actually in Merab Dvalishvili's corner. So this is like really, really interesting, right? So just imagine if Gustavo Lopez lands this big knockout over Merab Dvalishvili, and you know you're going to be some sort of connections. Like, obviously, this is nowhere near as big of an upset, even though the odds are crazy. It's nowhere near as big of an upset because Merab isn't Georgia St. Pierre, but it would be quite the upset if it was to happen. But I don't think it will. I think Merab will tear up those legs with the leg kicks. He likes to do that. Gustavo's pretty heavy on the front leg, pretty methodical the way he comes in. He looks to explode as soon as he gets in the striking distance. Like I said, I'd be shocked if he tried to take the fight to the ground because Merab's so good there and so physically strong. Merab also has fantastic cardio. So you're looking at a guy with fantastic cardio fighting against a guy who's coming in on short notice. That's probably not a good look for the guy on short notice. So I'm going to get Merab getting this victory by a second round submission or a second round TKO. I think he gets Gustavo out of there. I think Gustavo shows well why he's in there. But I think ultimately Merab gets it done. But it's a good opportunity for Gustavo. And like I said, either way, I don't think this will be his last fight in the UFC. That's all I have for you here. I wanted to make sure that we have still covered every fight on this card. I appreciate you watching. As always, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. If you haven't liked this video yet, please do that as well. But God bless and peace.